Michael.
What's up, Jason?
How you doing?
What's going on?
Oh, I'm just at a equipment rodeo over here out of town, and then just sitting here in a motel room. My wife's going to be here in another 2 hours or so that'll be kind of fun. I wouldn't have come otherwise, but I'm just sitting here in the room. What's that?
Equipment rodeo?
Yeah, where you get on the backhoe and or a grader, or just loader or whatever, and just have fun and play. And
Testing stuff out or like
competition stuff.
Oh, sure.
Easy money.
Wow,
Yeah. You get paid for having fun. Just like tonight, I didn't go down there. There's, I don't know, a meet and greet thing for whoever else. And I don't know, I walk down there and it's screw this. I come back to the room. I ain't into that. But other than that, not much. How you been doing?
Wonderful.
Good. Getting the golfing figured out?
Let's see. What's that?
Getting your golf stuff all figured out and training and all that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Well, I'm going to mute myself.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Amber. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, sweetheart?
Oh, I'm doing good. Sitting here in a motel room. Lori's going to be here in a little while. The county's paying for it. Easy money, playing on equipment. So,
All right.
Yeah, easy money. Today, they cut us loose at 11:30. So 4 of us guys got in the county pickup, drove about 80 miles. I don't know if we were supposed to. It was fun.
Nice.
It was fun.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Hotel action with the wifey. I'm sure she's going to enjoy some time away from home with her hubby.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. And plus, there's a store right here during the day where she can work at, and then just whatever, So I wouldn't have come otherwise. But so she said, yeah, I'll go. Store right down the road.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Michael, you look so cute.
Yo.
All right, I'm going to mute myself.
What up? Let's see here. So it's going to be a little different. We're going to have a little more discussion, I think, probably tonight than me talking about anything particular. Yeah, the topic I sent you guys was freedom to what end? And it's very relevant to the world we live in today, what's going on. But I don't really want to get any rants or anything or sides or anything like that, but more just the facts about I think what I really want to talk about was probably like the dangers of too much freedom. Like, so what's the limit in our freedoms? What are we allowed to have? And I think if anybody asks themselves that, I think we probably have all the basics, what we think freedom is, but does anybody think there's a limit, a stopgap on your freedom here in America? And this can be it doesn't have to be gender related, it just in general. Does anybody think there are limits to your freedoms and what those are? Yeah, speak up if you want, Amber.
Well, we saw it most during COVID. Like, probably we as a generation wouldn't have thought we had any freedoms or limits on freedom, because especially our generation, like latchkey kids, I mean, I could have rode my bike to California had I wanted to, and then growing up, again, like pretty much felt like we had the entire world at our fingertips. And so in my lifetime, COVID, that whole shutdown thing, that was the first time that I realized like the cognitive dissonance, like my what I believed was true actually could happen to us. Like they could limit fuel or limit food or limit products or limit water or limit transportation. That was the first time in my life I felt scared as to, geez, what if they took, our vitals away? I mean, yeah, I would probably go live in the woods and try to hunt and fish. And I don't know how long I'd live, but that was the first time I was super aware of the limits. Yeah, maybe, I guess.
So I like that. Let's even go further back. I'd say let's go back before even COVID as well. Let's discuss the whole picture, because I think right now, as a collective, not this group particular, but as a collective, a lot's being blamed on COVID indirectly. There's a lot of things that changed during COVID, no doubt. But a lot's being piled into that situation in those years that we were going through this, whatever it was you want to call it today. But a lot of things were piled into that as an excuse for us to pile into that. Like, oh, what were you doing? Well, I hear a lot is, well, couldn't do anything because of COVID. My business because of COVID. I stopped working out because of COVID. I wasn't eating well because of COVID. Like I hear like almost ridiculous stuff today, like added to this pile, this list of things. But let's go back a little bit before that. Before COVID existed, did anybody think about a daily, like, hey, what are the limitations to my freedoms? Or truthfully, let's ask the other question. Like, how much freedom do I actually have in relativity to another human across the world or a different country? Or, I mean, even states are not the same within the country. Have you ever like thought about it? Like really? I think probably we've been built off this culture. Like this is like a coaching culture of like when you're coaching a team, you want to build that team up to tell them they're the best. You want to tell your team you're the best. We are the best. We provide the best. And this is coaching 101. This has been around forever. It's proven over and over, whether it be a sports team or your team, you own a company, your business, your anything. This leadership role is about changing the mind culture of the people around you to have them believe in something. Sometimes it's not all fully true. Right? If you think about how many leaders are sitting around a group of their teammates saying, you are the best. How many teams are saying, you're number one, you're the best. We provide the best. We are the best people. Think about how many people are doing it at the same moment. So that statement can't even be true. Right? So I think about what are our freedoms? Like what are our limitations truly? And I think prior to COVID, what were they? Were we getting ahead of ourselves to believe that? And this is, I'm leading into something. I don't want to ramble, but social isolation and loneliness, autonomy, the abuse of freedoms. These are all the topics I'm kind of getting at. But the fact that I think we were getting to a point that what can't be mine? Like, I live in America. I have freedom. Like we've pounded our chest for generations in this country of being the best place to come live. Bring your week here. Like America is the sought out place to come because of freedom. We've sold that package for ever since this country became number one or whatever you want to call it or how they want to call it. But they sold the dream. The American dream is a marketing thing. The freest country in the world is a marketing thing. But if you tell yourself something over and over and over, you will believe it. We talk about this all the time, right? In a positive way. self-talk, constantly reminding yourself, these are tools. But when it's not you telling you that because you don't fully understand it, you could also be fooled into believing those things. We're number one. America's the best. We're the freest. We have all the freedoms. I can do whatever I want. And start to live selfishly and really be a little dangerous with our freedoms. So when I ask you guys, if you ever thought about the limitations of your freedom, I mean, what is it? Cops? Scared of the cops, the law? That could be a limitation, I guess. If you do something bad or cross a line that's already put in place, you can lose your freedom, I guess. Anybody else have anything to chime in about it? Your envisionment of freedom? Their freedom. What's the definition of your freedom? Could be anything. No? Do you guys feel like you have freedom? Physically, in your soul, spiritually, mind? Are you trapped? Jason, you trying to push buttons there, or are you just calling somebody else? You're bored already. Unmute it. Man, we'll get you, man. You're in. We'll get
There we
you.
go.
There you
Am I
go.
unmuted? Am I there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Your driver's license. I meant that's, you get a few tickets, you'll be, you get a few tickets in a truck or whatever, it
Their freedom of driving is taken away. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, that could be, you speed too much and then you're done or whatever, or just small stuff like that slowly leads to big stuff.
So that's more of like a loss of freedom.
Yeah, you're right there.
Consider
Yeah.
it a freedom, right? You do consider driving a freedom, right?
Yep.
The ability to access, being allowed to drive.
Yep. But you're right there. That's yeah. Never thought of it that way.
I like that you said it though, because look, my point to this whole thing is social psychology, and the mind will tell you that you can talk yourself into anything. You can believe anything. You can be anywhere. You can perceive yourself in your own reality. Truthfully, I had this crazy conversation. I think probably the person I was talking to thought I was crazy by the end of it, so I stopped talking. But it got on the point of like homelessness, and I used to like volunteer in Arizona a lot amongst them, and I learned a lot being in that environment. And I learned a lot that like I was talking to myself a lot. These people, some very brilliant people, some smart people, didn't seem mentally unsound. And it just seemed like at one point that lifestyle captured them. They never got out of it. And I thought to myself, because I've heard them talk about normal conversations, like this lady talking about, we're trying for another child while she's at a soup kitchen getting free food because she lives in the street. Like, think about that for a second. Logically, why are you trying to have another child? You know what I mean? But are we so free here that we create our own realities? That reality is, truthfully, it could be, that's the life they're in, and that is their reality. They don't see any other situation. That is a reality. They have kids in that reality. They date in that reality. They have sex in that reality. They go eat every day in that reality. They do the things in that reality.
Well, here's the thing, Michael.
Yeah.
When I was going back east, then to like see you guys, whatever, I seen you guys, I was speeding more than I should have. I've never had a ticket in 15 years. Well, when you don't get something, you kind of take advantage of it. And I was speeding more than I should and open roads and stuff. Well, I left your place. I went down to wherever, North Carolina, and then seen Amber's friend. He's in my phone, but we did that, and then Louisiana. I'm just following traffic. Then I wasn't even trying to speed, but you know what I'm saying. You get a ticket, and I got a ticket. Now I'm really watching my speed for the next 3 years because it affects your CDL. So you're good. Then something happens, you're really watch it.
Yeah, I like that, man. That's what it is, right? You don't really know what you have as a freedom until you get
Yep.
that puckered feeling in
Hammered.
your ass when you're getting pulled over by the cops and realize that
Yep.
maybe you'll get something taken from you.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
Anyway,
very-
I'll be
very-
quiet.
No, I like it. Keep this discussion. This is an ongoing one because it's there's so much depth to it. But give you another example, like having the freedom and autonomy to seek desired interactions in your life. Like we get to choose now with automation to choose our interactions, truly. Like if I don't want to go down to the bank and interact with the bank people or the people in the bank, I just don't. I do online banking. If I don't want to go to the grocery store anymore and deal with the social interaction of people in the lines and talking to the cashier, I'll get Uber Eats or Uber Groceries or whatever the heck that Uber thing is
But I
called.
bet you're not going to take the next step and get the chip.
The chip?
Yeah, where they put it in your finger or hand.
Yeah. But truthfully, we have so much freedom that we can find ourselves in a socially isolated situation. Meaning we're not having the same growth because we have so much freedom, we have lack of freedom. You get where I'm going with this conversation? I'm moving in the direction of sometimes when you have everything, it full circles and you have nothing. Because there's nothing to grow for. There's nothing to search for, ask for, need, want, desire. It becomes this thing that it's like, oh, I'm done with that. I'll throw it away. Or I got this much water left. It's warm. Toss it. We're in that very second, in somewhere else on the planet, that much water, somebody would freaking kick your ass if they saw you dumping it. Like literally kick your ass. So what is the balance of freedom, Portia? What do you got in your mind?
I was just gonna say, I think you have a good point there where everything in now, people are seeing things as no one has to work very hard anymore to obtain what they need, right? I know like Amber and I have talked about this, like we don't have to look very hard for information anymore because it's all at our fingertips. So we used to have to go look in a book for that or actually go to a physical library or something and write. So there's a lot of, you're probably familiar with this, but there's a lot of talk on how now we're obtaining our dopamine through a cheap source, right? Through things like Instagram, or we're getting quick fixes that are actually jeopardizing the way the brain is actually functioning and jeopardizing the way that people are making decisions or living their lives because we have so much convenience, right? And like, so there's a fine line, I think, between, yes, like Zoom is wonderful. We're able to connect, we're able to be here in all different states at different times, but also it's created a lack in a lot of lives. Like you had just said, like now we don't have to really be held accountable in a lot of ways. If you don't actually have to get up and you can theoretically never have to leave your house to
Right.
get everything that you need brought to you.
Right.
And yeah, that could lead to isolation, right? But it also is where people do see convenience. I think the other thing that I was thinking on freedom for me, when I'm thinking about creating my own reality, and I'm thinking freedom is a choice. Like we have a choice to be free in our lives. We don't have to be, I think we always talk about this, we don't have to be chained to a mindset that was from our past. Like, and that's what I always think of like freedom. I think of my beliefs and I think of a mindset. Like freedom is not a destination. It's something that we create for ourselves. Like we can be free in our minds, which frees us in our reality, if that makes sense. Like we're no longer like, we're not suffering because we become unattached to the things and we allow ourselves to just lie. And when I think of unattachment, I think of freedom in that way, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think we had a talk a long time ago about freedom. I entitled it that, and it was more about how you just ended that. More in here, when you can be free here in your heart and your mind, in your own space, and that you can feel freedom in your world. And truthfully, rightfully so. I'm glad you shared that. That's why I want to talk about all of it, because that's that piece of it. Like Amber will always talk about, like, she can disconnect herself from the world and just live her world and truly not care about everything that's going on, right? That's a great mindset to have. It's also can turn into social isolation and lack of empowerment and a lack of edibility. Like there's parts of it where we have so much freedom to literally disconnect and do everything from here, not get dressed to go pay my bills, not take a shower to go drop the check off at the bank, not have to do the things to leave the house, because as Portia said, we truly can never leave. We can work from our computer. So there's certain things that we start to lose as we gain.
Well, just like tonight, Michael, I'm supposed to be over there at a meet and greet thing, meeting other county guys or.
You're here.
No, I'm here because I walked over there before the meeting and I said, this ain't me. Everybody's sitting there doing this and this ain't me. I'd rather be in the room isolated, just like right there.
Freedom of choice.
Yep.
There's another one. Freedom of choice. You made a choice because you have that freedom. Now,
yep.
Maybe if you worked at a place in another country, you wouldn't have that freedom. There's all the ultimate argument was saying that if you grew up in a place with no freedom, that you wouldn't be arguing about the fact that you had no freedom. That's just your life and your reality. If you've never tasted one or the other, you don't know the difference. It is your reality. If you've always lived on the streets and you've never known anything different, maybe that's your reality. If you lived in another country where you weren't allowed to make the choice not to attend something, or you were going to jail, or you're getting your hand chopped off, or real consequences. But is it lack of freedom? Because we just know what pure freedom is? Or are we spoiled? Right? So you can get in this situation of where we get this. There is some good news about autonomy. Like they say stuff about, there are some health benefits wrapped around some studies about autonomy. It gets into this like self-determination theory, where with autonomy, you have to start to become more like on yourself to do things. So you start to build that, and they call that the healthy version of autonomy. So there is both sides of this thing, and I'm just playing with both sides of freedom. Is there too much? Can we have too much? Can we have too much? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is kind of what she was talking about earlier today, but I read an article, I think it was yesterday, and it was like, what would we do if Google wasn't around anymore? Like, so many people are so used to Google, and some people have never even experienced not having Google. And I think that's just like a little tidbit of some of the stuff that you're talking about, of how spoiled we are, and we don't even realize the freedom that's at our fingertips that we take for granted.
Love that. Knowledge, freedom of knowledge, access and freedom to knowledge. You know that I went to China, went to 13 cities in a few weeks. And there were some cities we went into that my phone would not connect to certain websites. They blocked IP addresses. They took that as a freedom. To the people in those provinces, like, no, you can't access Google. You can't access this. You can't access that. And it kind of just like took me by surprise, because I was in one city in Hong Kong and it was more Americanized. I was traveling up towards Beijing, and I couldn't search. They were blocked. You couldn't search things. And I thought to myself, holy shit, like what a simple, easy thing for them to do that just like blew my mind that I naturally was doing. I'm trying to search something. I'm traveling and it's like gone.
Well, just like you go to the mall, Michael, and you don't know how many people's got a gun hidden, or for good people. And I'm one of them guys. And all these people are otherwise. I ain't getting into other side or not, but what I'm saying is, you want to be able to not hide behind something, and you want to be able to protect, like Amber, Portia, or whoever, and you don't want to be sitting there not be able to do nothing, and just kind of like back in the World War II thing or whatever it was. And that's what I'm getting at. You want to be able to protect people, and you just don't want to bow down to somebody. But I ain't getting into that both sides. But
we don't have to go down that. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But you are saying a very simple thing. It's. I'm glad you brought that up because there's a lot of freedoms written in our Constitution.
yep, that's what I was
Right
getting at.
now, right now, they were written so long ago that the definition of freedoms changed. So we won't go down that path because
No, I ain't going down that way. No.
But I'm glad you brought it up because just within that alone of our governing body,
That's right.
there's so much different definition that people will fight about all day long.
Mm-hmm.
In our own country, stated by our own rules, it's written, and it'll take one person to read it differently as their freedom, and another person to read it differently as a freedom. So this is what I'm saying. Like if we don't pay attention to it, it can get out of hand. It can get out of control to the point where nobody cares about what the true meaning of it is in this country.
And a lot of times back in the 70s, remember the big bell pants and all that stuff, everything makes a big full circle kind of,
I was born in 1981.
Well, yeah. Yeah, okay.
I don't remember the 70s.
Yeah, I was, 75.
I watched them on TV.
But you watch all the hippies back in the 60s and 70s, bell bottoms and everything else, big pants, everything makes a full circle. So we got to watch it nowadays, and just for the good stuff and bad stuff, and either way, it all goes around. And people slowly just let stuff go.
Yeah. What about what about the freedom that there's a bit of, it started, I think, more prevalent when COVID came around, but it was before this. It was this argument of two sides of your freedom stops where my safety begins. So if you think about that, do you have more freedom? So I'll give you a real life example because it's most prevalent. In COVID, the fight using that statement was your freedom to not wear a mask does not trump you being around me and putting my safety in mind, right? So now you're talking about something very clear here. Freedom, because it was not a law, it's not a thing, it was suggested, wear a mask. My freedom to not choose not to stops where your freedom of safety begins. And that becomes a very contentious situation because where's this line?
And before that, it was always about like dumping and poison and not in my yard. And
of course,
it's look, what you do on your yard is okay, or your property or with your family. But if it starts to affect my family, then we've got a bigger issue. Right? And then we start talking about mass poisoning and the water and what we're all sharing and back to the soul and the collective and all that. I mean, right. Where is there space in between the molecules and the atoms we're all sharing?
Let's talk about something simpler. What about neighbors? You buy a house, you live somewhere, you feel safe with your family, you've created a safe environment, and next month neighbors move in and they're absolute government funded crackheads that are putting your space in safety. Now, where does the line get drawn? Can you just call the cops because they don't fit your safety model? Or do you understand what I'm saying? Where's our freedoms? Ours, and then now go on into their house and you're the other person on the other side looking at that house. Where's your freedom line begin and end?
Well, just like now, it's getting more lenient now. I did not want to get that shot, but my dad was going on that honor flight, and I know my dad's getting older, and he's been looking for it for years and years, but it got canceled. It got canceled in my mom's health and his health. For years, it got canceled. And we had this opportunity, and they said, now you can't go. I said, why? Well, you don't have a COVID shot.
Yeah.
And I was like, the only reason I did it is for my dad. But you know what? I'm not getting that booster shot. But I could not go unless I had that freaking card. And
how about not being able to see our friends or family die during that time if we didn't have
there
it,
you go. I had to look
be
at my
in the
mom.
hospital or see your baby born, right?
I got pictures of looking through the window, talking to my mom, holding the phone up because of COVID.
Yeah.
And finally the guy goes, your mom's on your last leg, or said it another way. Then the last 3 hours or something like that, he said, come on into the room, screw COVID. But before that, but they would not let us in the room.
Yeah, I mean, they held all of our grandparents hostage for years. I mean, really, it was a
That's-
mental health issue. The kids, yeah, that's a whole other level.
Anyway.
Let's strip COVID back from this conversation, because I like the conversation where it's going, but let's strip COVID right off that, the Band-Aid off that, because it is Band-Aid. There's plenty of diseases in this country that are just as dangerous or more dangerous that have been around forever. Let's not talk about that. Peel that off. Why did that even happen in our country? Why was it allowed that it got as bad as it did? That's the question I'm trying to ask. Forget
Well,
the
the
name
thing-
of it. It's not COVID. It's not that. Where's our responsibility to draw the line in our freedom that it can't be challenged because of something that already exists, that's been existing, and not that word. Forget the name of it.
But that's what our government does, though, unfortunately. I mean, that's the fear mongering. If it was 9/11, if that was 20 years beforehand, completely different thing. But there's always an agenda by the 1%ers of the evil, whatever we're talking about, evil,
are we
good,
free?
bad, whatever. Huh?
So are we truly free? Then I ask you the question.
Yeah, I mean,
Or are
not
we
really.
only
I mean,
free when everything's going good?
well, we're only free according to the agenda of capitalism on the world domination platform. That's it. It's all about if the 1%ers, if the people who own food, oil, soil, seeds, water, airspace, the things that are the only things that we need to survive as a world society. Yeah. Then yeah, as long as we're making them money and the engine is churning for those people, no, yeah, we're puppets on some level, but we can be free within that, and we can have sub pods of freedom, and we can, when we vote, our freedom is what we spend the dollar on. At least we have some choice in that. We can still support small farms or small local industries or small local things, and whether that's an illusion or they just haven't figured out how to control that yet, I don't know. But there's small freedoms inside the bigger prison. I don't know. Imagine what it's. I've never been in prison, but I imagine that inside prison there's probably small freedoms that you get, like trading cigarettes or whatever the hell people do. I don't know, but that
At PlayStation at Broome County Jail in the
well,
common.
okay, so you try to figure out how to be free within the prison you live in, I guess, and still have a quality of life, or be godlike, or serve others, or help others through or out. I don't know, maybe.
Let's talk on that. Let's go on that real quick. The last thing you said about prison, there's freedoms within any situation. We are spoiled and drowning in freedom in this country. Agreed? Everybody can agree with that. There's no denying. If you deny that, you're more spoiled and you have worse problems. You should take a nap and recover. We'll talk to you tomorrow. But truly, can you think about growing up in a space where there quite literally is almost no freedom, like a jail, but it's your life, like a third world country that is what it is because it's being run by a dictatorship, or the poor stay poor forever, period. There is no choice. Whatever they say goes situation. Even in that, what we're shaking our heads about, thinking, man, that would be tough. That'd be really hard. I have empathy for people that have to live with that. I traveled to Thailand after the largest tsunami it's ever seen Sri Lanka. When I started traveling, and things were devastated, gone, washed into the ocean. Buildings that were there that I'd researched before, gone. Everything was gone. This whole island washed away. And the people that greeted me at the island were the fucking most unbelievable people that I've met in this world. Because their freedom was their life. Their definition was they're alive. The things that they had or they thought at the moment could be rebuilt. The world around them could be rebuilt. The people they lost can't come back. Their life is their freedom. So like Amber makes a good point. Like even in prison, you can find these things. I think why we always talk every week is about getting to this personal freedom spiritually and mentally. I think that's probably a really good synopsis of what we are doing here week to week. We're trying to get to this inner peace and freedom of our hearts and our minds so that the world around us is projected the way we feel. And we do feel this freedom and autonomy. But it's not without having full understanding of how quickly it could be gone from you. Like it just happened for 3 years and we allowed it. A country
Well, I
that
think-
said they would never do that, it just happened.
I think even if you go back to 9/11, I mean, think about how quickly our freedom was taken away and how quickly everything became about us being united and us coming together and forgetting all of the other BS, forgetting all of the other race and all that. It became us, and how quickly everything that we had taken for granted, all of a sudden wasn't like just there.
I like
didn't
what
know-
you said, Lauren. You could, before what you just said, you could go in the airport, you didn't get stopped. You could go clear to the terminal with your family, give them a hug as they're stepping onto the tarmac or going into the tunnel to the plane. I can't remember what that's called, but anyway, I like what you just said, Lauren. I mean, ever since then, it's slowly just, they changed. Stuff changes.
Yeah. And one thing, one of a flight attendants I'm friends with, we were talking about how COVID and, if it was ever going to go back to how it was prior to COVID. And he was like, think about 9/11. Did it ever go back to normal after 9/11?
Never.
No, it didn't. And so I think just, us having to step back and realize how lucky we are and how many things that we have and how many things that we take for granted. I mean, as stupid as COVID was, we took for granted being able to walk out of the house or walk into a building without putting a mask on. And I know we don't want to focus on COVID, but it really did change a lot of things for people.
Yeah, that's another perfect example. The airport is a perfect example of this freedom versus safety idea. They drew a line where they thought was, where does somebody's freedom end to just walk through the airport like we were, and safety, because if you remember before 11, it was a shoe bomber that started the whole TSA thing. That guy getting caught with the bomb in his shoe was before 9/11. That was what started this whole forget freedom, safety needs to come in line. Then we had 9/11. Then it was, but Lauren's right, never changed back. We became different people. We adapted to our new guidelines of freedom. So it's a good point that she brings up. Freedom is ever evolving. So it kind of, saying it like that kind of blows my mind that we've never, the Constitution is still what it is.
Kind of like trust.
How's that possible?
Remember getting on an airplane before and you could look in and see the cockpit from the back. Now
Uh-huh.
they got all these metal doors on them. It's a matter of trust too. They're, the whole plane may not have something, or thank God, but you know what I'm saying? It's a trust issue now. I meant
Cool.
scan can't catch everything. So hopefully it does, but they have to put metal doors on because you can't trust.
Yeah. And it does. It goes all the way down to, schools before, the shootings and everything. And then, schools prior to COVID. My son's in 2nd grade and I haven't got to walk him through his class one time
That
because,
sucks.
Crazy.
not one time.
It's crazy.
And it's crazy how everything is. And, just they get threats, and it's the new normal that the kids having to practice hiding if there's an active shooter.
Yeah.
That's not freedom.
I mean,
but it
that's
is also
terrible.
freedom.
That's terrible for all of you parents. And unfortunately, when I hear you guys talk about all these different things and just watching all the stuff from 9/11 again on September 11th, on the History Channel and all that, just reliving, 20 years ago and all that. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist in the way that I believe that how do you change something as ironclad as the U.S. Constitution, the freest, most richest company company, exactly. Country. I'm sorry, that was like a faux pas, but that's the real. But the freest, American dream, the freest, richest country in the world. That's what my dad always said. No matter what, we're still the freest and the richest country in the world. Okay, so we set this. All of us were supposedly, criminals and outcasts and rebels of governments around the world, and so we all settled here. We wrote us a constitution protecting us no matter what, that said, even if our government goes against us, we can easily usurp them, and that we will run ourselves and make all the decisions for us. So the individual rights and freedom, no matter what, will never be changed. This is ironclad for as long as we will live, right? Well, the only way to change something like that is to create something like 9/11, something like a school shooting, something like whatever. And I don't know whether or not, different conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
They were orchestrated or not, but I have a bigger belief that in order to change something that big, the constitution of a free world, you would have to create the amount of fear that blowing up buildings in New York City, downtown Manhattan, or killing children with AKA rifles, like where the hell they get that, or whatever it is, would have to be the precedent to say, well, in order to keep you safe, we have to now change the constitution that this country was founded on. And that was the beginning of the end, whenever that began to happen, whether that was with the assassinations or whatever. But, back to freedom. I mean, that's how it gets taken and stripped from us little by little. And unless, we become Venezuela again, unless we're not scared enough to actually be the population that is one of the largest in the world for the first time in history, and come together to speak against, or to hold up and maintain our own rights, I think that's the one thing, where the devil gets in and won't let us unify, because people are so scared to lose the comfort of what we have here.
So it begs the conversation of, when you have nothing to lose, you fight. There's nothing to be lost. Everybody's been in a situation in their life. I'm not saying nothing, you had nothing, but you felt this situation where you were down and out. When you feel like that and you really have nothing to lose mentality, you fight. You really get after it. You're gritty, you're grimy, you're resourceful. When you're cushed up and number one and preaching number one, guess what? You wake up tomorrow morning and you're number three, because you've been spending so much time beating your chest at number one. And that's what we do with this enormous amount of freedom we have. Perspective's lost in everything we've been mentioning. And who knows what it is. I mean, all the way from God's will to strip this world and slow us down and maybe put COVID in place to make everybody open their fucking eyes, to stop over glorifying this freedom, to stop thinking that everything is deserved and yours, to stop. Maybe that was part of it, all the way to the other end and everywhere in between of the conspiracy theory. I mean, everything can be right there.
Yeah. And the thing is there's just so many different pieces that this applies to. I mean, not being able to pledge allegiance in school anymore, not being able to just, I'm just trying to think, there's so many different scenarios that, I mean, going even to like, everybody gets a ribbon, everybody gets this, we're taking down statues because it offends this person, it offends this person. Like, what happens if we don't stand for something? We don't stand for anything at all. And I feel like we're getting so greedy with what we think freedom should be, that everything that we've ever put in place, not saying that some of those things shouldn't change. I definitely think that it is evolving and things should change, but I think that this mentality that everybody gets a ribbon, everybody makes the team, everybody gets this, it's taking our freedom away in its own way. If that makes sense.
You're right. It crushes adversity. It takes away adversity. And without adversity, how do you learn anything? In my opinion, if you live a life free of adversity, which is, I think, impossible, but if you think that's what your goal is, you're never going to learn shit. You're not going to grow for certain. And that's what that's doing. It's taking away adversity. It's taking away the challenge. It's taking away, I got picked on, well, how am I going to not let that affect me? How am I going to be a stronger human being later? Now the freedom is too deep. It's gone too far. And I don't want to talk about the solution. Just let them do that. Right. And that's what's, Amber and I briefly were talking about this about, because I've been talking about it for years. Like, the male and female divide, like it's been on my mind for so long and I talk about it all the time. Like I think the control is so much more level than different conversation. But the point was, I was saying now it's the freedoms have gone so far out of hand. Everybody threatens everybody if they don't get their way. I will get your job taken from you. The vice principal used to be the scariest guy, and to the kids and the parents. No parents wanted to go to school, talk to the vice principal. Nobody. Parents were like, yo, no. Because they knew what it was like when they were in school too, and they felt the fear in their adult life.
And
And
now the vice principals feel that way.
Yeah. But now you have the freedom and the right as a parent to walk in the office and be like, if you don't give me my way of my kid, because they didn't do that, I will have your fucking job.
And what example does that set for our children? You know,
And guess
I
what?
mean,
It's happening.
yeah.
Teachers are getting fired, principals are getting fired because how do you side with 300 kids, 1,000 kids? How many kids at the school? Because every parent is coming with, it's my right, it's my freedom. My kid can be a girl, it can be a boy. I'm saying, forget all of it. Can we start at the base of having a conversation of the two sexes around the world? Get that over with, because that has a long way to go. Let's get that done. And then when we finish that conversation in a healthy way, okay, what feelings are you feeling? You feel like maybe you're a woman inside or maybe you're a boy inside. Now let's talk about that. Not just let them be. I don't want to get fired. They can be whatever they want at school now. We've gone too far with our freedom.
People can literally say that they're a furry.
Right.
They can, say that they're an animal.
It's embarrassing.
And if they say that, then the rules don't apply to them. They can wear hats. They can do this. They can do, and like it's ridiculous,
And yeah,
that-
but where's the hypocrisy and where's the line? Like that's okay in the schools all of a sudden, but
I can't
we
do
can't
it.
do the same. We can't do the same thing with our president, and or they're still censoring books, and or like it's so sloppy and chaotic right now.
Well, just like Amber, just like your kids. Now you go in a mall and they start acting up. Everybody says you can't spank or whatever. I'd still spank. I'd probably be in jail or something, But back then, when we were growing up, that's what our parents did. Or just like my grandpa, I got to tell this story. My grandpa back in the 20s or whatever it was, he was back in the day, he tied the teacher went to the outhouse. He tied a rope around it, him and his buddy, he said, and they ran off. And he goes, man, when that teacher got out, I'll never do that again.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
The teacher took the belt to him. It's just, he said, I'd never do that again. But nowadays, if you even touched your kid in the mall, I'd be in jail.
My father walked into the Oakdale Mall when we were in like 9th or 10th grade, skipping school with a wiffle ball bat. I was like, oh my God.
Carried that thing everywhere. Thing was all dented up. Yeah, so like, look, Amber brings up a good point to this freedom, the line. Can we just have a discussion about the line? That's what we should be talking about as a collective. Is it okay to beat your children? Fuck no.
No.
Is it okay to discipline them in a way that's like,
Yeah.
Okay.
They
Is there
remember.
somewhere in the middle where it's not like you're going to jail now. Period. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. There's no situationals. There's no conversations. There's no innocent till proven guilty. It just is, because the person pointing the finger has freedom. It's their right. It's my right. It's my right to be right. And that's dangerous.
Why aren't we taking, what's pissing me off about it is we're having all these conversations around children, but no one's being accountable for poisoning the water or poisoning the well or the pharmaceutical companies or all the different things that the government is allowing within government organizations, FDA, the American Medical Association, all these things. Like we're talking about this, like we're talking about it on a world scale, but we're not. We're talking about, if anybody calls and says I was mean to my kid, you'll take my kids from me. Well, again, that's fear mongering. We're not talking about social change and holding adults accountable for what's going on.
No, it's interesting. That's exactly right. It's interesting to think what we're really talking about are minor things. We've all grown up in the separation of time. So like things were what they were when we were in school, and they're extremely different. Usually in the past, like our grandparents saw a long time before something drastically changed. We were seeing drastic changes quickly and much quicker. But it hurts me because we're talking about literally our news topics are, oh, these schools are allowing furries in school. You could be a furry. When real shit is still happening across this globe. Real shit. People are suffering still. And that's why I'm saying in this country in particular, we're so full of it. We're so full of this freedom and righteousness that
Well,
our
even the-
promise has become so bullshit.
Absolutely. Like the jails. I was talking to a correction officer. They are so unsafe, and so are cops. I mean, think about it. Like
Yeah.
being videotaped at the worst. Like they don't get the whole story. People stop looking out for the person getting hurt or whatever, and they just grab their phones to start recording. They're so worried about catching it on camera that they're not worried about helping their neighbor or whatever the situation is. And like, the correction officer, he said that it's so scary because, before they could, if there was a criminal and he was acting out, they could take him in the back room and set him straight. And there was that fear, and there's no fear anymore.
No.
And that's the problem. There's no fear.
Well, the fear is
There's no,
opposite. You said it right there.
everybody is just like, oh, well, I can fight it, or I can sue them, or I can take this. And there's no fear. And there's got to be structure, and there's got to be fear to an extent.
Yes.
I mean, when are we going to wake up and realize that if we don't get our shit together, excuse my language, that we're going to end up like another country, and we're going to find ourselves worse?
We won't be number one, nor are we now, by the way, truthfully.
No.
I mean, if you go through all the things, that if you actually ranked a team, we would not be number one. We just
I agree.
believe we can do whatever the hell we want when we want, and we can go in debt, run up tabs, and do what we want. So we are number one. Do something about it.
The president's not even safe anymore, I mean,
Right.
think about the
Just
fact that like Twitter and Facebook and stuff is banning regardless of all that crap, like he's still the person in charge. He was still the person elected. Like, when did we get the right to say, oh no, you don't have access to Twitter, or you don't have access to this? Like,
Right.
who the heck are we?
So that's like the freedom of speech thing. It's anything. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess really what the topic comes down to is two things for me. One, the blurry line in the middle. Not everything has to be one way or the other. There needs to be this conversation of evolution. We're evolving as humans, and it's okay that rules and ideas change. But let's talk about it instead of not educating ourselves and just like, okay, just let everybody do whatever they want. I can't be around it. I can't be bothered by it. I don't want to lose my job. Like, I don't want to, like, all these things. Like, that's one, the blurry line. And two is the social experiment that is happening to us currently today. We are in an unsanctioned social experiment right now. It's happening to all of us. You didn't sign up for it. It wasn't your choice. It's happening.
Mhm.
What's happening is they're testing the limits of what people will listen to and follow.
That's right.
That's what's happening. And we all are falling in line. We're not truthfully standing up for our country because we have so much we think we can lose. Like, I don't want to lose my apartment, like my freedom to drive my sick car, and like my awesome clothes. And like, I don't want to, like, I'll bitch from my living room with my friends drinking fucking $1,000 wine. Like, I don't want to lose that freedom. Like, I'm mad, but I'm not that mad. Whereas, as Amber stated out, I mean, there's civil unrest in countries like Venezuela because they've been stripped of everything already. So there's nothing to lose but fight back for our freedom. One
Yeah,
word.
they up their houses and whatnot. Because of social media, part of the thing that's going on with, Facebook and and all the social media platforms is that people are also, we got the trollers and the people who they can say everything behind closed doors, but it's also teaching us that, boy, you say one hot topic, you could say 1,000. Yeah, this week, this was on my mind. It really pissed me off. I put stuff out there constantly. I try to use my only platform I have that reaches the world to actually change lives or inspire good conversation or something good. Nobody fucking says one thing about it. Comments, looks, likes, checks, nothing. You say one thing about a Furby in a school, like anything weird that's like a hot topic, oh my God, your freaking ex-husband's ex-cousin's wife is calling you from 30 years ago to tell you what a scumbag you are. So like people come out of the crevices. And the point is it's like, really? Well, where you been for the ongoing conversation I've been having to affect the world? So what? I have an opinion on also another important topic, but people are learning through social media that if we do stand together and if we all do stand up, look how different we really are when we start talking. This is the public platform that we're experimenting on. This is like Facebook and Instagram and things, because when we start having the conversations, you see the fights and the separate sides. So we're not even close to Venezuela.
Oh yeah.
Well, just like California is banning gas
Watch your
engines
mouth.
in a few years or whatever,
Watch your mouth.
everything's going to electric. Well, once one state starts, it's another state. And how can 6 or 7 government people in each state do this to us? It's just, I don't get it.
They're selling electric cars, but don't use any electric at Starbucks, right?
Yeah,
Mike?
and then when the electricity goes out, how can they change everything that's been going on for the last 100 years all of a sudden in 2 years? But anyway,
It's extremes. It's an example of extremism. California paved the way for the electric movement. They did. Everybody who's been over here, the people that have been working on it, the Bruntons and the Elon Musks and all the people, they're the light rails and the electric cars. It's paved its way in California. They're the pioneers of the electric. It's got so mainstream now that now the agenda is flipped in the California government to hold on, stop plugging your shit in. We're gonna have a blackout. We need to buy more oil. Starbucks are blocking their outlets here in California, where I live. You cannot go in and plug your computer anymore. They have wood over them. They're blocked. So the people that started it are now against it. So if you don't know what you're fighting for, what the fuck do you know? And that's what's happening. We're not asking questions. We're extremists now. We're just all the way this way or all the way that way. And I don't want to talk to the person on the other side of it. You're over there. Don't fucking talk to me.
That's the problem right there.
That's the problem. And that's not freedom. That's separation. That's apartheid. That's freaking civil war. That's not freedom. So we're not living in our own spirit of this country, which is built off of the thing we beat our chests on. We grow up in school and we're the number one. America's the best place to live and come as a refugee. We take all your weak and poor. Come here. Live the dream. We're free. But we've taken that to such this extreme of like, we can do anything and then ignore the real problems of the world because we're here, man. We're here, dude.
And now the solution, I feel like, is so far apart. Like you said, like it's one side to the other, like the extreme that to come up with the solution, it's hard because everybody is just like stuck in their way. Like my way is right, or no, my way is right. And there's no like middle ground. Like nobody's willing to like have that middle ground.
You remember middle school dance? Well, the first time you ever went to dances in like preschool or middle school, like middle school dances, literally guys on one side of the gym, girls on the other, nobody's fucking dancing. All because nobody, and guess why? Because nobody's talking to each other. They're on the side talking to the same people. All the guys are talking the same over here, and all the guys are saying this thing over here, and they're not talking to each other. 2 or 4 people have the balls to get out there and actually dance. The rest of the people clear on the other side of the gym for hours. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's the social experiment we're in, but in an adult way, and it's not even funny anymore. That's funny to watch because kids are goofy and they're weird, and we're trying to learn each other's. Like, that's a boy, that's a girl. Oh my God, she's in the same parts, like all that. But now we're adults and we're still doing it. Except for now, we're on the other side of the gym, we're pointing weapons at each other. Like, don't even fucking think about coming over here with that idea. Because I don't even want to have a conversation about it. I don't see your side. I never will. You're not one of me.
And also, hey, you were all allowed a free ride to come in and become a citizen and whatnot. But now, let's pick and choose.
Yeah.
Let's put a wall up. Let's put sanctions on flights, immigration, make it really hard for people, all the things.
Right.
Like, we'll decide who we want over here. Are you a doctor? Okay,
Right.
maybe.
Or what's the deal we have with your country? I mean, it is agenda formed. I wanted to say about one of you guys mentioned this too, is like what we're looking at. And we always talk about our world is what we look at with our own eyes, right? What we choose to see, who we choose to surround ourselves with, all these things. And we've had this talk too, but you got to be careful because it's easy. If you go on your Instagram, if you have one, and you go to the search magnifying glass, like you're going to search somebody else's name, you'll see a big screen of things come up below that, blocks of information of different things going on. All of that is algorithm based on you. What you've searched or talked about or heard, that whole thing is completely different out of this phone. You're not getting fed the same stuff. You're getting fed what you're feeding yourself. So you can you can move into a narration that you believe is your world around you simply off something as simple as this app, because that's what it's designed to do. The algorithms are designed to target you for what your interests are, even when you don't know your own.
And if you think about it, if you really wanted to like really control the world, this conversation would have at least 3 of us in jail by the end of the conversation, just by 3 or 4 different words we use during the conversation, because we're not in alignment with, in a future world. So that's what it's being designed for too,
You know what I think of, my definition of freedom? I think I refer to almost everything in movies, but I think of a Braveheart. I think of that when he's yelling at the top of his lungs, like till the very end, he does it in the fights, but at the very end, when they're freaking castrating this dude and separating him from limb to limb with horses, he is screaming the word freedom because he's doing it for the cause, the actual word freedom. Like he doesn't want to be controlled and imprisoned. And I'm not talking about behind bars imprisoned in your own life. Right? That's what happened to us the past couple of years. We allowed to be imprisoned. Nobody stood up in the ways that they should have. Because truthfully, there was no law in place. Do whatever you want. I mean, Australia shut down. They had martial law in the streets in Australia. And we thought we had it bad here. Martial law. Can you imagine if tanks were riding down your street, guns pointing at you, telling you cannot leave your home? I mean, we were stripped of freedoms here, but if you think it was bad here, call somebody you know anywhere else in another country, because it was borderline illegal. So we just gotta, I get that it's not easy to like go out in your freaking porch and yell outside freedom with a sword in the air like Braveheart with your face painted. And I'm not asking you to do that, but god dang, like we gotta stand up within our own communities and our circles and at least have enough voice amongst our circles.
I think, you bring up a great point. Number one, Braveheart's one of my favorite movies ever. But,
Yeah.
I think you bring up a fantastic point of it's not freedom in the sense like behind bars or anything, but it's selfless. He's being selfless and fighting for the cause. And I think that like that's what we need to get back to. We need to get back to being selfless and fighting for the same cause.
Like our future, a parent, right? Your future, your kids, the kids' lives, their world.
Exactly.
Worship.
I just wanted to say that I think that we have to get back to community, like getting together and bringing people together, because I was thinking about like when using social media, shadow bans are real. They do shut down as soon as you start to speak truth, or I know like you start to talk about everything that went on with COVID and you start to break down really the health aspect or the spectrum of it. They won't put that in the algorithm, right? They're not going to put the truths in the algorithm. So we have to, to create change, we have to, I think, go back to some of the basics on how to create change, right? And not because when we rely on social media in a way, we're actually relying on the left in the way. We're like, because we're relying on, we're giving our power away to them in a way, if that makes sense. And so I think like, there are ways to get it. It does have its pros and it has its cons, right? But I think if we truly to make a movement, right, it goes back to the basics of what we would do before the times of that type of technology.
You hit it on the head 100%.
Yeah.
What you're saying, you hit it 100, because what you're saying is the media stuff TikTok can get 2 million views, 4 million views and something, even if it's not ridiculous, something cool. But that's attention arbitrage views. It's creating algorithm for attention, not movement. What Portia's talking about has to be done in person. A movement happens with feeling and witnessing somebody in person, model it. Being in that group, getting that energy, like being in church or being amongst the people you're fired up in a softball game with your employees. Like when you're in the moment of something, you have to be physically in the presence of a movement. The online stuff is just attention arbitrage. You can win it. You can start going on there. You can preach all day long. I could preach these over and over until one hits the algorithm and I get 2 million views, but I can promise you it probably would do less than what it does currently now with just us 6 in the room.
Well, and one thing, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Lauren.
I was just gonna say, I don't know how many of you guys watched the Woodstock documentary, but to Portia's point and, community, look at Woodstock, what it used to be, and then Woodstock, what it turned into 99. It turned into this just huge, just everybody destroying everything. It took away from what Woodstock was all about. And I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Just at a larger scale.
Not quite paying attention, right?
And to Portia's point, what I heard from that was the best thing we could possibly do is all delete and not even be a part of any and all social media at all. And that would be the biggest protest that we could ever do. And that seems scary right now because it's like the first time we've been able to really reach the other side of the world and see it visibly. We have this weird ego thing with our whole human, journey here that we have to see it and touch it. And even the internet itself, all that is a projection of the human mind, right? We took what the mind does and then we had to put it on the outside so that we could touch it and control it and feel it. But if we took that away and we didn't let them use us to learn us, we'd be so much more powerful, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, what I think about when I think of social media too, like you had said, I could put this video out and get 2 million views, but how many of people, we talk about this, how many of those people are actually going to implement any of that thing that they just saw? You know what I'm saying? Because I think there is so much ego wrapped up in social media. And I think a lot of it is we've probably all been guilty of it. We do click on something, we like something, or we save something, but then we never use it. Or how many times have you screenshot something and never come back to it? Because there is just so much information that people will 9 out of 10 times are not even remembering. Only there's a select few people that are remembering, unless they're actually interested in that and they're looking to change, they're remembering that.
Dude, TikTok has a anti-scroll message that comes up if you've been on too long. They're the ones that implementing it because they know how dumb you are. Think about that for a second. The person pops up with, hey, the next one that pops up says, hey, you've been on, you're scrolling too long, you should take a break.
TikTok was originally, I think, what I want to say, controlled by China. It's originally controlled in China.
It was
Chinese platform.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I'm not drinking any more Ocean Spray. Maybe I'm singing a little more Stevie Nicks, but who cares? Like, what is that doing in my life? Nothing.
Oh, so good, Ocean Spray. Listen, I think what you said about it, this is hard. It's easy to say out loud, but it's hard to do because you really got to get a movement behind. But cancel culture today is created by, so when somebody gets canceled, they use the tool of social media to cancel that person. The tweets, the drives, the Instagram push on the agenda. And it usually comes from one side or the other. So when somebody gets canceled in the industry, it's because millions of people are reposting this on this thing and canceling that person. To Amber's point earlier, we need to flip that back on being able to cancel a company when needed, when they have too much control. How do we cancel Facebook?
We should be able to.
More people on the planet.
You have to boycott it.
That's what I'm saying, but there's more people on the earth than there are users of any app, except it's close. Facebook is the closest to have is almost as many users as there is human beings on this planet. They're fucking really close. But truthfully, they're using the weapon against us. We are the tool. We are the sword. We're the
All we're doing
sword.
is creating more dissonance. Unfortunately, none of us can get on the same page for the right agenda. We should
Right.
be using
That's the
it
problem.
that we can actually use our constitution and use our democratic rights and our civil rights and those kinds of things. And it's just ridiculous. It's a popularity show. We are all back in 7th grade at the fucking dance.
Basically, we
That's
had,
not
we all
substantive
better. wake
Sidelines
up.
watching.
I just want to play
Remember-
floor hockey in gym.
Basically, we better all wake up. Remember 25 or 30 years ago when we were in school, we had the bag phones. Look how fast it's going. Now we're down to little pocket phones.
You got a
That's
bag,
just in 30
you got a-
years.
you got a bag
And-
phone?
Yeah, I had a
Rich
bag
were
phone.
you? How rich were you? I used to take my road.
Anyway, I had a big
plug it
phone.
from the wall and
Look
take
how
it out.
fast it's
So it looked
going.
like I had a portable.
I had the extra
Anyway,
long phone.
another 20
but I
years,
was
where are we
off
going to
like
be?
chicken at the door.
Yeah.
I had notes where you had to spell blue, red, or green.
You know what I miss the most, and I don't miss it personally now because I'm an adult and I do what I want. But the idea that I missed the most was the freedom of going outside. Period. Meaning, like when we were young, we just went outside and played. Nobody ever said anything. Parents didn't say, "Oh, watch out for this, that," or you went outside because we had the freedom. We lived in a country.
Get on your
that's
bike
free.
and ride forever.
Yeah, you go and ride, or you play, or you hang out with your friends, and you come home when you're hungry. Like there was this like creative journey in your mind about being this adolescence being free. And even that we've lost to the point where, I mean,
Yep.
parents won't let you out of the fucking car because they're scared somebody's gonna snatch them or feed them something or sneeze on them or wipe their
I was
hand.
that
on
way with my
them,
kids.
or look at my kid the wrong way. How dare you? Don't even fucking look this direction. I mean, it's just so.
I was that way with my kids.
What?
I mean, it's where you're afraid to let them go places. I mean, I did, but
You
it's
lived in-
different.
Yeah, but you provided a situation where they could spend all their time outside
Yeah.
safely. So it
Mhm.
wasn't we weren't
Yeah.
letting them, just weren't letting
Yeah,
them.
they'd still go, but it's
Right.
just it was a different world from when we grew up. We didn't have to tell our parents where we're going to be or what, but it's just a whole different world. We just got to watch it how fast it's going.
It's okay, by the
Now-
way. It's okay that it's
Now
different.
parents are willing to exploit their children for likes, like they don't care that there's all of these pedophiles and stuff liking their daughters or sons' pictures. Like,
Oh yeah,
they would
that's
rather
fine.
like-
Stay home
that-
and post dance videos in your room. Don't let
Right.
that go. Yeah, post
Oh my
sex dance videos all day long to get views, but you can't leave.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you said it.
And by the way, those people can like find out where you live faster than I could find
Yeah.
out.
Right.
So yeah,
Well, listen, I think I wanted to bring this topic up because we usually we're on a journey of growth, physically, mentally, spiritually, and I love that about us. But I think it's important to have discussion and debate and agreement and disagreement. I think it's healthy every once in a while that we do stuff like this to just pay attention, because sometimes we are just talking about us and our growth and the things that are helping us, and we can get in a world, at least I believe, in this connect group of, we have this freedom. We have the freedom to choose our friends on this and show up to this and talk about the things that are nice and pleasant and help each other grow and all those things. And that is a freedom in itself. So I wanted to talk about some more gangster shit, if you will, let's talk some real shit that's happening and discuss. And we're not going to change the world today, but as long as we don't avoid the truth, we can always be a part of changing the truth.
We just need to slow it down.
Yeah.
It's going too fast.
Yep. But we can slow down. I think that's what the last couple of years taught me, at least. Nothing's happening, man. We don't need to keep speeding up. You're not missing anything. Slow it down, enjoy. Be present, be in the moment. You're not missing anything you think you are. But I appreciate you guys. We went long tonight, but I love that because we're all fired up. We can probably go another hour. Freedom is a very sensitive subject for everybody because it means so much and it means so different. But I think we all made some really good points tonight, brought up a lot of very important things to keep your eye on your personal life and just always be present with the freedoms that you have and not to abuse them. Because I think all of us are guilty of abusing our freedom. And I'm just going to end it with the fact that what we always talk about is being free here first, right? Truly, we're just here in our own skin and we see what we want to see. And sometimes we feel pent up and upset with this world and feel like we can't do anything about it. But that's because we allow it to happen. It always starts in here. We feel the way we tell ourselves we feel. So there is ugly in the world. It doesn't mean we have to be ugly with it. So grab
And
your
all of
sword.
candles and all of us are sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. All of us are candles in all these individual states. I mean, look at us, it's interesting that we're all somewhere in our own world, but we're all on the same page. And so that's how we change the world, is one person at a time. So we just keep having the conversations in our communities.
Yep. So I challenge you. I'm gonna get off this. I'm gonna grab my sword. I'm gonna go out in the yard. I'm gonna scream freedom as loud as I can. And I hope I can hear you back.
Can I say something quick
No.
that I was just thinking
No,
about?
time's up. I'm just gonna-
Okay. No, in freedom, like in this country, we don't have to, but we pay to have health insurance. Because say we do hit someone or we have a catastrophic event, if we don't have health insurance and we go and we need some kind of a major surgery, if we don't pay for it, they will start, and you have the assets, they will garnish, they will make you pay for it, right? If you have that money. And so, but yet, if you have health insurance, you are limited on what they'll even do for you. And so there is really no freedom. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, it's yeah, like I said, like you have to have it, because if you don't, you could end up in a whole slew of bills, and it actually costs more money if you don't have it. So
And
it's
the disease today, you have a pre-existing condition which makes you unacceptable.
right. But yet when you go to a doctor, you're shut down when you want to do X, Y, and Z. They tell you what we'll do for you. And
Right.
then that's it.
With
So,
yeah.
Right. And it's usually never like it doesn't get you anywhere in that way. Like, you know what I mean? Unless you need some kind of like major reparative surgery.
One
They're having a
decision at a
tray.
time. One decision at a time. We don't have to go rush another country and try to take them over, right, for our freedom, like Braveheart. But one decision at a time, like Portia's talking about, one stance at a time, one moment that you have with a teacher, maybe at school or with a doctor, fucking take your own personal stance, man. You have the freedom. It is your life. Now, it might not feel good or it might fucking be scary and sometimes you can't get around the rules that exist. It doesn't mean you have to give up on trying to push that agenda or trying to push that idea or fight for your rights. So she's right in that. And just don't get arrested. You know what I'm saying? I want to see you guys here, but you probably still be able to join in jail, to tell you the truth. You probably get that right if you complain enough. Like I need Monday nights open from I need my computer in here. I need to be on my Connect group.
It's my religion.
It's my fucking right in my religion. All right. I love you guys. I'm glad I live in a space that allows me the freedom to do and choose my life as I have chosen for 41 years. I'm truly blessed to have the freedom to do that. That is my freedom. And it leads me to things like this. And I'm blessed to have you guys. So appreciate you. Love you. Get some rest.
Love y'all.
Peace
Love
out.
you guys. Thanks,
Happy-
Michael.
Make the
Thanks
best
for
of-
the Halloween idea.
Thank you.
So